In the world of cloud computing, APIs, application programming interfaces, serve as the backbone for enabling communication between different software systems. Configuring access to APIs is a critical skill for developers, especially when working with Azure services and third party services. This presentation will guide you through the essential aspects of configuring API access, ensuring secure and efficient communication between your applications and the services they depend on. APIs are sets of rules and protocols that allow different software applications to communicate with each other. They define the methods and data formats that applications can use to request and exchange information. In the context of Azure, APIs enable developers to interact with various Azure services programmatically, automating tasks and integrating Azure capabilities into their applications. There are several types of APIs, each serving different purposes. REST, representational state transfer, APIs are the most common, using standard HTTP methods like GET, POST, PUT, and DELETE. SOAP, simple object access protocol, APIs use XML-based messaging for communication. GraphQL APIs allow clients to request specific data structures, optimizing data retrieval. Understanding these types helps in choosing the right API for your needs. Authentication is crucial for securing API access. Common methods include API keys, OAuth, and JWT, JSON Web Tokens. API keys are simple but less secure as they can be easily shared. OAuth provides a more secure, token-based authentication, allowing users to grant third-party applications limited access to their resources. JWTs are compact, URL-safe tokens that can be used for secure data exchange between parties. Azure API Management is a service that enables organizations to publish, secure, transform, maintain, and monitor APIs. It acts as a gateway, providing a single point of entry for API requests. APM offers features like rate limiting, IP filtering, and user authentication, ensuring that APIs are secure and performant. It also provides analytics and monitoring capabilities to track API usage and performance. Creating an API in Azure involves several steps. First, you need to define the API's endpoints and methods. Then, you can use Azure Functions or Azure App Service to host the API. Azure Functions is a serverless compute service that allows you to run code on demand without managing infrastructure. Azure App Service is a fully managed platform for building, deploying, and scaling web apps. Both options provide robust support for API development. Securing API access is paramount to protect sensitive data and ensure that only authorized users can interact with your API. This involves implementing authentication and authorization mechanisms, such as OAuth or JWT. Additionally, you can use Azure API Management to enforce security policies, such as IP whitelisting, rate limiting, and SSL/TLS encryption. Regularly monitoring and auditing API access logs is also essential for identifying and mitigating potential security threats. Consuming third-party APIs allows your application to leverage external services and data. To do this, you need to understand the API's documentation, which provides details on available endpoints, request formats, and authentication methods. Using tools like Postman can help you test API requests and responses. When integrating third-party APIs, it's important to handle errors gracefully and implement retry logic to ensure reliability. API rate limits are restrictions placed by API providers to control the number of requests a client can make within a specific time frame. Exceeding these limits can result in throttling or temporary bans. To handle rate limits, implement exponential backoff strategies, which involve retrying requests after progressively longer intervals. Additionally, monitor your application's API usage to stay within the allowed limits and optimize your API calls to reduce unnecessary requests. Monitoring and analytics are essential for understanding how your APIs are being used and identifying potential issues. Azure API Management provides built-in analytics and monitoring tools that offer insights into API usage patterns, performance metrics, and error rates. By analyzing this data, you can optimize your API's performance, identify bottlenecks, and improve the overall user experience. Setting up alerts for specific metrics can also help you proactively address issues before they impact users. API versioning is the practice of managing changes to your API without disrupting existing clients. There are several strategies for versioning APIs, including URL versioning, query parameter versioning, and header versioning. Each approach has its pros and cons, and the choice depends on your specific use case. Implementing versioning ensures that clients can continue to use older versions of your API while you introduce new features and improvements. Comprehensive documentation is crucial for helping developers understand how to use your API. This includes details on endpoints, request and response formats, authentication methods, and error handling. Azure API Management allows you to create developer portals, which provide a centralized location for API documentation, sample code, and interactive testing tools. A well-documented API reduces the learning curve for developers and encourages adoption. Designing APIs with best practices in mind ensures that they are easy to use, maintain, and scale. Some key best practices include using consistent naming conventions, providing clear and concise error messages, and implementing pagination for large datasets. Additionally, consider using RESTful principles, such as statelessness and resource-based URLs, to create intuitive and scalable APIs. Regularly reviewing and updating your API design based on user feedback and industry trends is also important. Let's explore a real-world case study of API integration. A company needed to integrate a third-party payment gateway into their e-commerce platform. They started by reviewing the payment gateway's API documentation and setting up authentication using OAuth. Next, they implemented the necessary API calls to process payments and handle errors. By using Azure API Management, they were able to monitor API usage, enforce rate limits, and ensure secure communication. This integration streamlined their payment process and improve the overall user experience. Configuring access to APIs is a fundamental skill for developers working with Azure and third-party services. By understanding the different types of APIs, authentication methods, and best practices for API design, you can create secure and efficient integrations. Utilizing Azure API Management further enhances your ability to manage and monitor APIs effectively. As you continue to develop your skills, consider exploring advanced topics such as API versioning, rate limiting, and analytics to optimize your API implementations.